Once upon a time, in a rural mountain village, there lived a shepherd. His job was to keep his flock of sheep safe from wolves, the forest, and other dangers, for if anything bad happened to them, the entire village would starve to death. He was a good shepherd. At least, he was good for what he had. The job of a shepherd, despite its importance, did not bring in much gold. The fences fell into states of disrepair, and the grass grew patchy and worn. The shepherd looked to the village and thought, each and every one of the villagers had a stake in the sheep remaining alive. Perhaps they would share in their generosity to keep the sheep from dying. He asked around and received a pittance. With such little money, there would be no way to replant the grass or fix the fence. Within a week, the flock began dying out. Wolves ate the fattest sheep, and the thinnest sheep starved out. After this, the shepherd pled to the people of the village once again. He was able to point out that if this were to continue, every single one of them would starve. The people of the village gave in, and soon the shepherd found himself with more gold than he knew what to do with. By the end of the month, the fence was fixed, and the grass was growing beautifully. The flock was returning to its former glory. All was not pleasant, however. Every night, the shepherd could see wolves prowling at the edge of the gates, tapping on the bars, trying to pry them loose. They would be in before long, and the shepherd knew it. Unfortunately, when the shepherd asked for more gold to keep the fence up to standard, he was laughed at. The fence was perfect, and no sheep had died for weeks. Conflicted and beaten, the shepherd returned home. The red eyes of the wolves glared through the gates, and their scratching became ever louder. Then, the shepherd got an idea. He saw one sheep, slow and stupid. He tore off its ear and left it outside the gates, where it was torn to pieces by the wolves. The shepherd told the story of the poor little sheep that had found a break in the wall, and soon found his funds rising once again. However, one person wanted to ask how the sheep got out, even with the improved wall. The shepherd thought of a lie. He quickly thought of the sheep were getting more and more curious. The shepherd was then asked how he planned on stopping more of the sheep from getting out, with their growing curiosity. The shepherd decided that with enough gold, he could feed them so much that the sheep would become fat enough where they can no longer move. It worked for a time, but as the fattened sheep remained unharmed, the people's thoughts of them grew cold. However, the fattened sheep tempted the wolves even more. They surrounded the fence every single night, drooling. The wall was still weak, as the shepherd had spent most of the gold fattening the sheep up, and he knew it. In desperation, the shepherd bashed in the head of another sheep. It fell down dead, and according to the shepherd, once again the wolves were to blame. He told the townspeople that one had jumped the walls. The wolves were becoming more agile, and with one bound, they were now able to get in. The people stood horrified at what they heard. Another villager suggested that if they build the walls higher, it would prevent the wolves from getting in. So the shepherd began building the walls higher, against his better judgment. The foundations were very shaky, and they were getting shakier the more and more the wolves prowled at it. But before the shepherd could fix the foundations, he had once again run out of money. The shepherd thought long and hard, and then he lit a sheep on fire. He blamed this one on a dragon that swooped overhead and cast down a brilliant flame. The people of the village had never seen a dragon in their entire lives, so the shepherd figured he could dictate how the people saw it. He built up the monster in people's heads. It was a fierce beast that breathed the mighty flame, and it had a taste for sheep meat. If the shepherd didn't get the gold he was after, this would destroy not only the sheep, but the entire village as well. The shepherd had gone too far. The villagers spent their time and their money searching through the forest, looking for such a beast to punish it for what it had done. The shepherd remained in the village to take care of his sheep. While the villagers were gone, the wolves made their final effort. They broke down the fence at its weak foundations. It fell on the shepherd and crushed him to death. Then the wolves ate every last sheep, as every single one of them had gotten too fat to escape. And the wolves were gone before the villagers returned and saw the damage that had been done. With the evidence presented to them, the villagers knew that this could have only been done by the mighty destruction of the dragon. Every day, for weeks, they searched further and further for the beast, as they got hungrier and hungrier. Anytime that they tried to raise a new sheep, the dragon would eat it before long, and eventually, the entire village starved to death.